And let's talk also about it felt like in many moments of this war already from October 7th on, where you had Israel almost playing a war on two fronts. And I'm talking the war against Hamas and others, but and Hezbollah, but also the war on really the public affairs of it all, where it felt like a lot of and so many from different country leaders to presidents were talking about, okay, we need a ceasefire, we need it now. But it seemed like in many fronts that the war has almost had a chokehold on Israel on what they can do and what they cannot do.
No, that's exactly right. It's worth noting for your viewers that how did this war begin? On October 8th, Hezbollah attacked Israel. No one is disputing this. Hezbollah has been boasting about it. Israel did not attack Hezbollah. Hezbollah attacked Israel. So they declared war in effect. When you attack another country, you're going to war. So what has happened in the last year is Israel and Hezbollah has been playing tit for tat. Hezbollah would fire some rockets into Israel. Israel would fire some rockets back in defense and in retaliation. But that has not stopped anything and has not stopped the war. And where was the world calling for a ceasefire then? Only when Israel appears to be winning are they calling for a ceasefire. But for the last year, when 12 Israeli children were murdered on a soccer field playing soccer and Hezbollah fired a missile, the world was strangely silent. So I think that if the world really wants resolution and peace, the only way is to actually eliminate these terrorist organizations, because they'll be on our shores sooner or later. They've made it very clear. This is their words, not my words. They want to destroy Israel first or damage Israel as much as they can. And they want to ultimately destroy America. Remember, Israel is the little Satan in their eyes, and America is the big Satan. But if I would add one other thing to give context to this war with Hezbollah is this. What is really propelling Israel to have attacked Hezbollah now? And the reason is that after October 7th, when Hamas went across the border and murdered, raped Israelis, Israel was afraid that Hezbollah could do that in the northern communities of Israel where they border Israel. So they told all the Israeli communities in the northern part of Israel to evacuate. So for the last year, you've had 80,000 people with families living in a single room in a hotel or moving from one friend's house to the next friend's house as kind of like, nomads over the last year. This has been a horrible situation for people with families, children in school, jobs being upended. It's a mess. And for the last year, they've been putting huge pressure on the Israeli government to say, when can we go home? So finally, the pressure built up so much that the mission of the Israeli government is to allow those 80,000 citizens to return home. And the only way they could do that is to make sure that Hezbollah accepts Resolution 1701, which was passed after the last war, but was never honored by Hezbollah, which means they have to move 70 miles north of Israel to create a buffer so Israel has some sense of security for their northern communities.
Very well said there, Harley. And then lastly, I just want to get your thoughts. We're getting very close to the one-year anniversary of the attack on Israel, October 7th, of course. Is there any threat of a one-year anniversary type of attack on the many fronts that Israel is facing right now?
I imagine so. If Israel hasn't learned the lesson from October 7th, they ought to now. So clearly, we've seen historically that Arab nations, as you pointed out, tend to like to attack Israel on anniversaries and on Jewish religious holidays, which is now. Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year for the Jewish people, is coming up in about a week. And also you have at the same time the year anniversary. But that said, I think Israel this time is very much on guard for that and will be vigilant.
All right. So thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. We really loved your perspective there, Harley Lippman. It's always great to speak with you, and thanks for your updates, but also all of the news and information you were giving us as well.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you again. All right, we are getting some other videos coming in live right here on Live Now from Fox. You are seeing these interceptors right now coming in the sky, taking these missiles out right now from Iran. Again, providing you these different angles and coverage spots, all right here on Live Now from Fox. We were learning that Secretary of State Antony Blinken was going to be making some remarks. That has been since canceled after these barrage of missile attacks from Iran. Again, let's show you the different vantage points that we have here for you. It looks like that feed right now was a little bit tape delay. So what we'll see is some live shots right now of different portions of Israel. Let's again show you this as it was happening, and up in the skies, you were seeing these interceptors go up, try to take as many missiles out as they could. I do want to show you this as well. This coming from Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, saying today, I spoke with the Israeli Minister of Defense today to discuss the threat of an imminent Iranian attack against Israel. I shared that over recent days, the United States has increased force readiness and continues to maintain significant military capability in the region. Let's just show you again just some of these many different shots that were coming in from Iran to Israel. And now we are seeing the skies above Israel right now at this hour. You are watching Live Now from Fox. We are staying with this here for you in our coverage. Again, wanting to bring this to your attention of U.S. Central Command has about twice as many aircraft, ships, and missile defense systems than it did back in April. The total number of U.S. troops in the Middle East right now stands at 43,000. That is from the Pentagon. Fox News producer Liz Frieden putting that out there. We should also let you know a State Department briefing is coming up in just moments. We'll take you there. When that does happen, of course, that will be all about what is going on right now in Israel. I do want to show you moments ago some of these shots that were coming from high up above in Israel of the attack being launched from Iran. The IDF has been continuing to intercept these missile attacks. We are learning that it is continued and will be continuing for quite some time. We are learning through Fox News different reports. And again, this was anticipated. The U.S. intelligence was that it could happen anytime in the afternoon or evening hours. And this is what we are seeing all play out in real time. Iran's anticipated ballistic missile attack against Israel continues, according to Fox News chief foreign correspondent Trey Yingst, citing an Israeli source. Yingst said initial reports indicated that around 100 missiles have been fired toward Israel. Israel's Iron Dome missile system could be seen intercepting the projectiles. The attack appears to be unfolding in waves. The IDF released a statement saying Iran's attack is continuing and the aerial defense array is currently identifying and intercepting launches at this time. Iran previously launched a failed missile attack on Israel back in April. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said the latest barrage of missiles is in retaliation for the killing of their Hezbollah leader in Beirut, Lebanon, in an Israel airstrike last week, and the killing of the Hamas leader back in July, according to Yingst. The Israeli Defense Forces said in a statement earlier that a short while ago, missiles were launched from Iran towards the state of Israel. In just the last few minutes, the Home Front Command has distributed life-saving instructions in various areas across the country, the IDF said. The public is asked to adhere to the Home Front Command's guidelines. Upon hearing a siren, you must enter a protected space and remain there until further notice. All right, and we are getting another update in right now as the Iran regime now saying that this missile attack, again, is in response to the killing and of Nezra and Iranians killed in the recent strikes. And if that justified such an attack. The justification will not likely influence the Israeli response in any way. We should also state from Iran's state media, the IRGC, saying in response to the killings of their Hezbollah leaders, we targeted the heart of the occupied territories. If the Zionist regime reacts to Iran's operations, it will face crushing attacks. We should also show you that the White House will be having a briefing shortly as well. So there is a lot of different moving parts right now here on Live Now from Fox. State Department briefing is also going to be happening within the next couple of moments. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was supposed to be speaking, but we learned that has been since canceled since the latest attack just happened. Again, IDF saying that these attacks are still going on right now and that their systems are capable and ready to deploy to get the projectiles out of the air and not slamming into Israel cities. Again, this all happening as Iran launching this major missile attack on Israel, the first since we have seen since April when those attacks happened, but it was failed in a big time. And as of right now, it looks to be the same sort of wave that we saw back in April that Iran was conducting. Again, you are watching Live Now from Fox, everyone. Thanks so much again for being with us as we cover live news, top stories, and breaking news as it is all happening in real time. Do want to just show you just some of the moments that unfolded about 30 minutes ago, and we want to show you just some of those sights and sounds in just a little bit as we were getting these images to you here on Live Now from Fox. All right, so this was just moments ago, that eerie sound of the air raid sirens going out throughout Israel, and you were seeing these interceptors go up. You can see it right there on your screen on the left, and going up to meet these projectiles and missiles that were up in the air, and you could see when they came in contact with the interceptors. And again, the system doing what it is expected to do and is so well known for in Israel, that Iron Dome system that continues to really defend the state, the country there of Israel, but also the region as well. Let's again show you just some more live pics that we are seeing of Israel at this moment. Again, the attack happening about 35 minutes ago, and we want to just show you these fresh images that we are getting in from our newsroom right now. We appreciate all our viewers continuing to join in with us. And again, this all happening as Iran says that it fired dozens of missiles into Israel today, as the months-long fighting between Israel and Iran's proxies in the region, Hezbollah and Hamas, have escalated, threatening a wider regional conflict. Israel ordered residents to remain close to bomb shelters as air raid sirens sounded across the country there. And again, more live shots and different settings available here to us. But We should also mention we do have a State Department briefing and a White House briefing on deck here for you, and that we will be playing out. If we do see Secretary of State Antony Blinken speaking, if we do see even the president speak, we will bring that to you here on Live Now from Fox. We're also, of course, bringing you the coverage later tonight of the VP debate, the first and only one for the vice presidential debate. Of course, that will be talked about probably right off the top, talking of the escalation that is happening in the Middle East. So stay here for our coverage, not only this afternoon and into the evening, but all night long, as we will be bringing you these updates all in real time. Again, the White House saying that Biden and Harris are monitoring the attack right now on Israel as Iran continues to launch the missiles over the entirety of Israel. Right now, we can tell you also we're getting some news from the ground level as well. Right before this missile attack, we were telling you of a terror attack that was happening in the city of Jaffa. We are learning through reports that there could be at least 4 people killed in that terror attack that was happening just moments before the missile attack was happening in the sky. So there was a situation out there in Jaffa, Israel, where it appears that at least 2 gunmen were attacking people in the streets, and now learning that maybe at least 4 people dead in that situation. We'll continue to wait for more updates right there on that matter. But the big one of the day, and that will continuing to be talked about, of Iran launched over 100 missiles at Israel. And the White House continues to say that Biden and Harris are monitoring this attack right now. We don't know if this is going to come in waves like it did the last time. Remember back in April, about 300 missiles were launched back then. And that one came in a wave-like structure. But we'll wait and see what happens now with this impact here and the latest response of what is going to be happening. All right, we are getting some more updates into our newsroom right now at this hour, learning that the Israeli military says it killed another senior Hezbollah operative. That coming from an earlier strike today. Israel's military said it killed a senior Hezbollah operative in an airstrike on an apartment building on the edge of Beirut. The Israel military said that Mohammed Jafar Qasser was killed in a strike this afternoon. It says that this leader was in charge of Hezbollah's unit that ships weapons from Iran to Lebanon, and he supervised Hezbollah's development of precision-guided missiles. So we'll be keeping an eye on that story as well. A very, very fluid situation that continues to be happening in the Middle East, and we are bringing you these images all right here on Live Now from Fox. So there was several different attacks happening in Israel today. One, of course, from the air from Iran. And then we were talking about a terror attack that was happening in Jaffa, Israel, learning that at least 4 people killed in that attack. Looked like multiple gunmen. Those were the latest reports there. So let's reset for everyone on Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Mike Pace. Great to be with you. Wish we were meeting under better circumstances, but we are taking a look here live in Israel of the sky right now. Appears to be more calm than it was about 45 minutes ago, and it looks like another update is going to be coming. We will take it if it is in English, that coming from the IDF as well. So we'll be keeping an eye on that shot. Again, we have the State Department briefing coming up, White House, all in the mix right now. So a lot of different updates will be coming in the coming minutes to hours. I just don't know if those events could be delayed with the situation that is happening out in Israel right now. So we are learning at least 100 missiles were launched from Iran towards Israel. That was the latest number that Fox News has been reporting. This really started today on the news that an attack could be happening. That U.S. official told Fox News that could happen anytime from the afternoon to the evening hours, and that intelligence was spot on because the missiles were being launched from Iran. Now, over the weekend, we were learning from Fox News and Fox News Trey Yingst that Iran was moving missile operations and can be seen from satellite moving some of their missile systems. So there was an uplink in the idea that Iran was getting ready, gearing up for this attack. They are saying it is in retaliation of the latest Israel attacks on Hezbollah. But again, we're bringing you these images live, raw, and unfiltered right here on Live Now from Fox of at least 100 missiles being launched from Iran. And if you're just joining us on Live Now from Fox, everyone, do want to just show you just some more of those moments when we were hearing the air raid sirens go off, as well as some of the interceptors going up. But before I do that, getting another update from Fox News as the White House saying President Biden and Vice President Harris are monitoring the attack right now from the White House Situation Room. Biden directed the U.S. military to aid Israel's defense against Iranian attacks and shoot down missiles that are targeting Israel. All right, we were hoping that this latest update was going to be in English. It is happening right now. We're working to see if we can get a translation here for you, as it is not in English there, but there is an update ongoing right now from the IDF right now. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. I just wanted to monitor that in real time while I'm up here with you, but did not appear to be in English. We'll see if it is on the back end there. As soon as we get an alert, we will bring that to your attention as well, everyone. So stay right here with us. We are continuing to bring you the very latest. We are not going anywhere. We are keeping and pushing out our breaks further so that you can stay put right here on Live Now from Fox. That was the State Department briefing, waiting for that to happen. And again, we will be bringing that to you. All right, getting some new updates from Trump, as he has just put this message out on his Truth Social. Donald Trump saying, "The world is on fire and spiraling out of control. We have no leadership, no one running the country. We have a non-existent president in Joe Biden and a completely absent Vice President Kamala Harris, who is too busy fundraising in San Francisco, a city which she and Gavin Newsom totally destroyed, and staging fake photo ops. No one is in charge, and it's not even clear who is more confused, Biden or Kamala. Neither has any idea what is even going on." Again, that was a statement put out by the former President Donald Trump via his Truth Social platform right there. And again, showing you the skies up in Israel as this attack happening about 45 minutes ago, and the latest numbers coming from Fox News, about 100 missiles altogether from Iran to Israel. We are continuing to monitor the different shots that we have available here to us. Again, coming up in just moments, we will have a State Department briefing as well as a White House, and I'm going to say we'll probably at some point today be getting some sort of Pentagon update talking about the different personnel that we have in the region right there that are in the Mediterranean as well as the Middle East there. We have some 43,000 American personnel from our great military in Israel. So again, we'll be focusing in on those different measures and different updates, all right here for you on Live Now from Fox, everyone. Do want to show you just moments ago what it sounded like while this attack was happening in Israel. All right, again, so that was moments ago. We are back out live here for you, showing you just the different vantage points that we have out in Israel after the IDF launch, after IDF reporting that missiles launched from Iran towards Israel. So I want to bring in our next guest here of this hour to help break it down. Very fluid, what is going on right now in the Middle East as the tensions continue to grow right now. This is Azaf Romerzowski, is the executive director of Scholars for Peace in the Middle East. Thanks so much for joining us on Live Now from Fox. We really appreciate it. And first off, just your thoughts of what you have been seeing and hearing out in Israel.
Well, thank you for having me. So what you're hearing now is obviously a clear retaliation that was expected as a result of the latest attacks that Israel has gone into Lebanon. Obviously, the taking out of the CEO of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah. And what you've seen is actually a little bit more of an acceleration than what we saw back in April when Iran launched for the first time missiles at Israel. The estimation here, even according to Iranian intel, Iranian reporting that has come out of Iran, about 400 ballistic missiles that have come from Iran on the entirety of the state of Israel. What takes about, and ballistic missiles is the quickest way that Iran has to target the state of Israel, about 12 minutes. And so if you're looking at the alert system that the Israelis have, known as the Red Alert System, the entire swatch of Israel, the center parts of Israel are all under constant attack. People are in shelters according to Central Command. And this was the attack that Israel expected. It's also clear that Iran is clearly feeling the pressure. That is to say that they are the ones indeed pulling the strings when it comes to Hezbollah. Hezbollah is the direct proxy of Iran, and they want to show strength here. And so this is exactly the kind of impact that we're seeing here. But of course, it is clear that this is the capacity that they have and what they want to do. You're also seeing on the flip side celebrations in the Palestinian areas in Gaza and whatnot, seeing these attacks come under, that Israel is under attack, and should signal to everybody the kind of enemy that Israel is indeed facing. This is all, the entire war that we're about to mark now it has all been sponsored by the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Yeah, that was so well said, Saf, there. And can you give us just some perspective on what we can expect here in this region in the next 24, 48 hours? What will they respond, or are they going to be looking at as if this was something of an attack that happened back in April, what we saw Iran do back then?
So what was unique about what happened back in April, and I think that the strength and the uniqueness of the Abraham Accords, you did see a coalition of the countries Sunni countries that support the state of Israel, namely the Saudis, the Jordanians, we, the Americans, all helped. And the fact that, there was deployment of American aircraft, missiles, carriers, and cruisers into the region itself. This was all to be expected. And so, of course, I think that but I think there is going to be some retaliation. I think that the idea that you're seeing here, and this is the coming to fruition of a war on multiple fronts. You have obviously the nucleus coming from Iran and the nuclear capability that the Iranians have as the largest destabilizing factor in the region, while at the same time you have the ongoing conventional challenges that the Israelis have had in the south and in the north. Clearly, Lebanon under Hezbollah has close to 200,000 long-range missiles with guidance precision systems, and they've been using that for the past few days, and now all compounded by the Iranians. The Israelis will not let this go by at all, and clearly there will be some kind of retaliation. I think it's going to be a question, and as we saw back in April, the kind of surgical attacks and surgical targets that the Israelis are going to pick and choose in order to make a point of showing to the Iranians what they can and can't do. You might remember that back in April, Israel indeed targeted areas near the airport, but not targeting the actual nuclear facilities. This may be an acceleration. There's potential for cyber attacks. All of these are potential or within the arsenal that the Israelis have. This has clearly been a continuation and the aggression of an act of war. And it's been the war that Israel has been fighting. And there will be consequences from the Israeli side. There was pressure back in April in order to temper the response that came out of the White House. My suspicion is that conversations between Washington and Jerusalem will be questions about the kind of response, but there will be a response without a doubt.
And it'll be so interesting, definitely to see. It's a very high alert right now out in the Middle East, and it's ever evolving, really hourly. So, Asaf, thanks so much for joining us on Live Now from Fox. We really appreciate your updates and as well as your insight on this matter. Still very fluid at this hour. So, thanks so much for joining us as always on Live Now.
Thank you as always.
Thank you. And again, we are providing you these updates all in real time with these different images that we are seeing right now throughout Israel. And again, coming up here in just moments, we will be speaking with someone that is in a bomb shelter right now in Israel. So we are looking forward. He is going to be calling in. And we are going to be looking forward to having that conversation here in just moments. Again, thanks again for all our viewers joining us during this very, very fluid and breaking news moments of Iran again launching missiles towards Israel. And that's all happening. Remember, the first time back in April. Now this has happened again. This all coming really on the heels of Israel taking out Hezbollah leaders over the weekend, and then even back in July as well. So this has been ongoing, of course, ever since October 7th, and the Middle East has been on edge really ever since. Coming up in just moments, we are expecting a State Department briefing as well as a White House briefing. So all of that coming in a matter of moments as well. So a lot of different feeds that we are taking in for you, just trying to manage all of them right here for you on Live Now. And again, we're showcasing what we saw a little bit ago as well when those interceptors were in the air and Iran launching those missiles over the entirety of Israel as well. Okay, we are learning some new reports as well. Remember, there was a terror attack also happening in Jaffa, Israel, moments before the missile attack happened. Now learning new information there from reports of at least 8 people killed in that shooting attack, with at least 2 gunmen as well. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. That was at a train station that you can see right here, as police right now are, of course, in the area, have the area blocked off, but now learning of at least 8 people killed in a terror attack shooting in Jaffa, Israel. That all happening earlier, moments before the missile attacks were happening in the skies of Israel. So we are going to be in just moments. I know it's very fluid right now, but expecting for an individual to call that is in a bomb shelter right now, as everybody in Israel has been told to get into place in a bomb shelter, because you don't know if there is going to be another wave of missiles being launched and geared towards Israel. All right, we do have some more updates to get here to you. This is coming from Fox News' Jackie Heinrich. The IDF spokesman just said that there are no additional threats heading toward Israel from Iran, currently indicating that the missile attack is over. Residents were notified a short while ago that they can leave shelters after an hour here. So that is some encouraging news. We're also getting, at this stage, we are still carrying out an assessment of the attack, but we are unaware of any casualties. Again, that is coming from the IDF in the missile attack statement there. And let me just read it again for our viewers maybe just joining us. As residents were notified a short while ago that they can leave their bomb shelters after an hour. During the defense, we carried out quite a few interceptions. There are some impacts to the center and areas in the south of the country. The IDF says at this stage we are still carrying out an assessment of the attack, but we are unaware of any casualties as well. All right, learning that we are going to be continuing to get more updates, of course, all in real time here for you on live now from Fox, just of the ever-growing and really fast-paced moments that are happening now in Israel. But from the IDF, they are saying that it appears that these attacks from Iran are now over. But again, we just need to continue to wait and see if that is going to be the case. Right now, their intelligence and what they are seeing on their end does showcase that it is over. But they are assessing the damages right now, if there are any. Right now, they are saying that there are no casualties at this moment from the missile attacks. But it appears that there are casualties in this terror attack that happened on the ground in Jaffa, Israel, as well. So a lot of different things going on right now, and it's very, very fluid, as you can imagine. But here on the desk, we are trying to provide you always the very latest as they're happening, live, raw, and unfiltered. We're continuing to push out our commercial break, so you will not see any interruptions right now as we are in this breaking news mode here for you. We'll continue to get the updates as they come in from our sources and Fox News as well. The White House saying President Biden and Vice President Harris are monitoring the attack against Israel from the White House Situation Room and receiving regular updates from their national security team. President Biden directed the U.S. military to aid Israel's defense against Iranian attacks and shoot down missiles that are targeting Israel. The White House added in a statement, Iran has been launching a barrage of missiles towards Israel in retaliation for the killing of Hezbollah and Hamas leaders. Israel and Jordan have also closed their airspace as the attack was unfolding. The IDF said today that Israelis are now permitted to leave protected spaces in all areas across the country following that missile attack by Iran. We request that the public continue to follow the Home Front Command's guidelines. Hundreds of missiles are reported to have been launched toward Israel by Iran. There are no immediate reports of damage or injuries. During the defense, we carried out quite a few interceptions. There are some impacts in the center and areas in the south of the country. That is coming from the IDF spokesperson. At this stage, we are still carrying out an assessment of the attack, but we are unaware of any casualties. Okay, and now as being reported there, the total number of missiles out of Iran now revised downward to 181, and no drone attacks as well. So as you can see during those breaking news modes, things can fluctuate so much as far as numbers, and waiting for things to get triple confirmed for you all in real time. Right here. Again, very, very fluid as this assessment continues from the IDF. And they are going to be looking at areas in the central and south of the country, they said. But at this point, it appears, thankfully, that there have been no casualties as well. We are also monitoring, though, a terror attack that happened near Tel Aviv, and that is the shot that you are seeing right now at a train station where it looked like there was at least 2 gunmen, and killing now, the latest reports that we are getting in, at least 8 people there on the ground in that shooting attack. So we'll keep an eye on that one, as that story is still developing as well. But we are keeping an eye really on all of the different feeds that are coming in to our newsroom and pumping them out all to you in real time. And of course, when we get the news conferences, we'll bring those to you live, raw, and always unfiltered as well. So a lot of different moving parts here for you. I'm your host, Mike Pace, really guiding you through this breaking news situation that we are seeing in the skies right now over Israel. It seems, though, from the IDF saying that the attack at this point looks to be over from Iran. Right now, no casualties. Close to 200 missiles, it looks like, was launched from Iran towards Israel and we were seeing a lot of those interceptors take place. Do want to show you just some of the sights and sounds that took place moments ago while that attack was happening. Right, everyone, you are watching live now from Fox. That was moments ago, and you were seeing those interceptors up in the sky, the part of the Iron Dome, again, defending Israel from those attacks from Iran. Looks like we are getting closer to the State Department briefing starting. As soon as that gets going, we will be bringing that to you on Live Now from Fox. And our coverage will be continuing into the next hour, pushing those breaks out as much as we can to provide you all of the updates that are going to be coming from the State Department as well as the White House. You see the different shots that we have here for you. Also monitoring the breaking news of a terror attack happening in Tel Aviv just moments before the missile attack there in Israel. Learning of at least 8 people dead in a twin gunman attack there. So we'll be keeping an eye on that story for you as well here on Live Now from Fox. But that is going to do it for my time here on the desk. My colleague Christina Evans is going to be with you, providing you the latest updates to this really fluid situation continuing out in Israel. But what we know at this hour is that from the IDF, it appears that no casualties from this missile strike. People are now allowed to leave their shelters as well. That is what we are learning from everyone right here, and getting the latest updates coming to you on Live Now from Fox. Again, just want to show you just some of the moments from a little bit ago. All right, everyone. So that was from moments ago. Just wanted to show that to you here on Live Now from Fox. Okay, we're also getting an update from Jennifer Griffin showcasing U.S. defense official statements saying, on accordance with our ironclad commitment to Israel's security, U.S. forces in the region are currently defending against Iranian-launched missiles targeting Israel. Our forces remain postured to provide additional defensive support to the region as well. Our forces remain postured to provide that support and to protect U.S. forces operating in the region. So we'll be keeping an eye on that for you here on Live Now from Fox. But we are now being joined by an individual who was taking shelter just moments ago and is still in a safe place right now to help give us some of the coverage from Israel as this attack was happening. This is Josh Haston, Middle East correspondent with JNN News. Thanks so much for joining us on Live Now from Fox.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So first off, I'm so sorry that that we are meeting under these circumstances. But if you could just give us your thoughts and what was happening when this missile attack happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually on my way just to the local synagogue for the evening prayer, and all of a sudden we got the alerts on the phone and headed towards the bomb shelters. There were rumors throughout the day that Iran would in fact strike Israel. That was the IDF's assessment. We didn't know when, where, or how, but just about an hour and a half ago, all of a sudden, Iran started raining missiles down here on the state of Israel, sending several million people into the shelters. The latest report I'm reading here is 180 missiles were launched. Remember, this is not the first time Iran has done this. Back in April, they launched 400 missiles, rockets, drones at the state of Israel. So for about 45 minutes, we had, where I live just south of Jerusalem, we had the red alert alarms going off and on and off almost constantly. And then you're told to stay in the shelter for about 10 minutes until it's safe to go out. Miraculously, only 2 light injuries. At the same time, the horrible news out of Jaffa, Tel Aviv, 8 people murdered in a terrorist attack. 2 Arab terrorists struck in the heart of Jaffa there. At first, I believe, at a bus stop, and then continued their shooting spree. Those 2 terrorists were liquidated by, I believe, police. It's still unclear if it was police or it was citizens armed with guns. We'll find out, I'm sure, pretty soon. But as all that's going on, and again, I don't know if they are related to the Iranian regime, if this was a separate attack. But either way, the goal here is to murder Jews on the streets of Israel. And your audience needs to remember, what starts here doesn't finish here. Israel is referred to by Iran as the little Satan. The United States is referred to as the big Satan. We are the canary in the coal mine. So you see what Iran is doing to us now. It'll be interesting to see how the U.S. in fact responds to this attack. Just the other day, Houthis attacked a U.S. vessel in the Red Sea, and the rockets were shot down. But the administration in Washington did not respond, as far as I know at this point, to the Houthis. That being said, Israel was targeted by a missile from Yemen just the other day, and Israel responded very, very strongly, sending our fighter jets 1,800 kilometers over to Yemen in order to drop our payloads down on Houthis. So we appreciate the support of the United States. We know the U.S. is our best friend, but now is the time to respond. Israel certainly will respond to this strike, and we hope the U.S. is at our side as well.
Josh, I also wanted to get your take because all throughout this war, ever since October 7th, it seemed like Israel has been facing multiple fronts in this war. Of course, the ones that want to do harm against them. But the other front, I'm talking about the public front of where it seemed like pressure, not only from world leaders, but others to have a stranglehold on Israel on how they should conduct the war. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, our prime minister has said that, and it's true, that we are in a war on 7 different fronts militarily. And you just added an 8th front. The 8th front are the useful idiots, those protesters on college campuses, those protesters outside the UN General Assembly who are calling out the state of Israel as we are defending ourselves, especially after the biggest massacre of Jews on October 7th since the Holocaust. Israel is defending itself against this evil, which again starts here but doesn't finish here. So these are useful idiots. We know Iran has been involved in sponsoring some of these demonstrations and protests around the world and in the United States on the campuses and outside some of these big meetings or whatnot. They are doing the service of the Iranian regime. These are the same people who throw minorities off roofs. These are the same people that mow down protesters in their own countries. They arrest or murder women who don't cover their hair according to their standards. So these are the protesters. These are who they are siding with. It's pretty unbelievable that they don't see the difference between, which I believe is clear as day, between good and evil, between Israel, the United States, and the evil, which is Iran.
And Josh, lastly, you knew of the threats that were in place for today, with that imminent threats that we were talking about earlier, with these missile attacks that looked like it was happening. So, what was your day like before? Obviously, you had to be thinking that this could happen today.
Yeah, so I was in Jerusalem for most of the day. I was actually supposed to attend a memorial ceremony for the police who were murdered on October the 7th and those who risked their lives on October the 7th. It was an official police event, Israeli police event. And once I got a phone call from them at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon that the event had been postponed, I knew this was serious business. I knew this just wasn't, some random or hypothetical. I knew that this was the real deal. If the Israeli police are calling me up and saying the event is postponed, we're not having it tonight. There was talk a little bit earlier in the day when the Home Front Command actually came out with little stricter guidelines for different parts of the country, and that included Jerusalem, where I was, but it wasn't as strict as some of the other places, as in the north of Israel, where Hezbollah has been attacking ever since October the 8th. So again, it started to trickle down. First, the Home Front Command came into play, and then for me personally, once the Jerusalem memorial event for those murdered on October the 7th, or those servicemen who risked their lives to save others on October 7th, once that event was canceled, I knew it meant business. I got in my car, headed home, and just an hour or two later, I found myself in a bomb shelter with another 3-4 million Israelis.
And Josh, I'm so sorry that this day happened to you. It seems like October 7th, and then a lot of has happened in the meantime, and these reoccurring images and sirens continue to play out in Israel. It's heartbreaking.
Yes, it is, but we are strong. Let's not forget that we are strong after 2,000 years, the Jewish nation, and we are back at home. We have an army, we have a state, and we will take care of those who are trying to destroy us. We will not take this standing still. We will definitely strike back. I don't know how or when, but you saw, and the world has seen what we did in Lebanon over the last couple of days, the pager attacks, the walkie-talkie attacks, taking out Hassan Nasrallah, the head of the snake there in Beirut. And we can do the same. We can reach Iran, and the Iranians know that, and they should be very, very afraid.
All right, Josh Haston, thank you so much. Middle East correspondent with JNS News. We appreciate your input, your analysis as always, and then also please be safe the rest of the evening and going forward. We thank you again for your time.
Thanks so much.
Take care. All right, everyone, we are continuing to bring you always the very latest here on Live Now from Fox, everyone, bringing you the updates all in real time. Here's what we have coming up for you. State Department is on deck. White House is on deck as well. Should be happening pretty soon. We'll be getting the updates from our U.S. officials here in just moments. Also keeping an eye on the skies high above Israel as the IDF saying that it looks like the attack is over from Iran. They'll continue to monitor and look at the central and southern portions of the country as well. So that is going to do it now here for my time here on the desk. We are continuing our breaking news coverage. My colleague Christina Evans is going to be joining you in just moments. I do just want to play out a little bit more of the sights and sounds when the attacks were happening throughout Israel.
right. Welcome in now to Live Now from Fox. We were just listening into some of the sights and sounds that happened just moments ago when Iran launched missile attacks towards Israel. So it was a very dramatic turn of events as the IDF did prepare their residents, saying that earlier today that an air raid was imminent at the time. I'm your host, Christina Evans, and of course we have been continuing to follow the very latest with this breaking news out of Israel, trying to give you the latest idea of what's going on there in the region as Iran has officially launched that missile attack there in Israel. At this time, we have had some updated news there from the IDF, letting us know that they do not believe that there are any more attacks imminent at this time. We're now taking a live look there over Tel Aviv. Earlier today, you could see missiles falling in that area. And of course, the Israeli Defense Ministry also launching a counterattack to be able to shield their residents there from those missiles. At this time, we also know that there are no known casualties from this attack. This is via the IDF. And of course, as soon as we continue to get more information out of the region and updates, we will let you know more. So let's go ahead and bring up a tweet that's also really relevant to this time that's happening there. The IDF spokesperson has said that there are no additional threats now heading towards Israel from Iran currently, indicating that the missile attack at this time is over. Residents were notified just a short while ago that they were able to leave those bomb shelters after an hour, and we were actually just able to speak with a man who was inside of those bomb shelters, and he was able to leave, and he is now back at home. They gave us an update on what it was like to hear those sights and sounds and the preparation that went into preparing for an attack like this. But at this time, I now also want to bring in our next guest of the hour. This is Brian Boyd. He's an intelligence analyst and a former counter-terrorist specialist professional and Green Beret as well for the U.S. military. Brian, thank you so much for being with us here this afternoon. I first have to start. Obviously, this is your line of work, over 30 years of experience. But what was it like earlier today when you heard that Iran had launched this missile attack there in Israel?
It was to be expected. You have to understand something. The Israeli intelligence capability is extraordinary, something beyond the scopes of our history here. So they were well prepared for it, and they knew with the bellicose statements from the Ayatollah that they were going to say something that they were going to crush Israel. Now, he has to say that because he has to keep his country together based on the hatred of Israel. And I intelligently believe that they are losing grip on their population. So he has to come up with something. Second of all, launching ballistic attacks, he's hoping that any one of those missiles would get through. That's why it's such a massive barrage. Now, the Israelis knew that this was going to be a short take. It was not going to be expected to be a long one, and they knew it was going to be a retaliatory response. Are they going to go to war with Israel? No. Iran cannot afford to go to war with Israel. They don't have the capability to do it. They can work through proxies, and that's the only way they'll have any success in eliminating Israel off the map, working through proxies. But they cannot get into a direct confrontation with Israel.
Let's talk about some of those proxies. Obviously, Hezbollah there that's operating in Lebanon, as well as Hamas was another thing that started this that kind of kicked up, I should say, this entire tensions there in the Middle East back on October 7th of last year when they had that attack. So again, explain for people at home, Iran works through proxies in that region to be able to go back and forth with Israel.
Yes, Iran is enormously wealthy. Different changes in administration. They have more money now than they did in the early administrations. So they have a lot of money, and all they do is spend their money on trying to build a nuclear plant, a nuclear facility, because they want nuclear weaponry. That is their goal. They want to eliminate Israel off the map. They want to eliminate all Christians and Jews. That's their long-term agenda. Second of all, with all that money and all those ballistic missiles, they're operating through the network of the Shia Muslim network that exists in Hezbollah. It exists with the Houthis in Yemen and with some of the groups in Syria and Iraq, and also exists with the people in Gaza. So through these proxy states, they're providing them all the missiles and all the training that they could possibly want. And that's where the money comes from. That's where the missiles are coming from. And as long as Iran can operate through these proxies to try and eliminate Israel off the map, That's the situation that we're faced with today in this real world.
And that makes sense, certainly. And we just brought up a tweet there on the screen that said that the total number of missiles out of Iran is now revised downward to 181. No drones. When you hear that information, knowing exactly how many missiles were fired towards Israel, what scale of an attack is this? Is this something like that region has seen before? Of course, we do know earlier this year, Iran also launched another attack.
Correct. It was, I would say, symbolic, although being symbolic is one thing, but on the other hand, you know that when they do launch these missiles, they do hope to get some of them through. The David Sling and the Iron Dome has proved over and over again that these missiles are not able to get through. And as long as that defensive capability of the Israelis exists, they could survive these kind of ballistic attacks. Fast forward, if they wind up getting a nuclear weapon, the Iron Dome and these type of defensives will not work. And that is the greatest fear over there, is having that happen with a nuclear bomb. So, and the problem of the real world, the free world, is the mostly sophisticated countries of the world all are participants in the nuclear proliferation agreements. The only people that are not party to that is Iran, and they're radical enough to want to use it. Whereas the Russians, the Pakis, the Indians, the Americans, we have no desire to use nuclear weapons. So the real fear is the religious group that runs Iran is liable to actually use it. That is the fear that we have to be really concerned with.
Absolutely. And I want to read out just another update that we got in from the AP earlier this morning. Israel's military said that it also killed a senior Hezbollah operative in an airstrike earlier today near an apartment building at the edge of Beirut. So this is important because these attacks are sort of being traded back and forth throughout the region. We know that, of course, both sides say they don't really want an escalation into a full-out war, but it doesn't seem like that's the case with trading attacks there.
Yeah, if people understand what's going on in the Middle East, Israel has been in a defensive posture since 1948. They've always been trying to defend their right to exist as a democracy. The other side of the coin is between the Shia and the Sunni sects fighting over the Arab world, and Iran being the oddball personality out. The rest of the free Arab world, the Egyptians, the Saudis, the Lebanese, the legitimate Lebanese government, the other governments there, they don't really want to have people like the Shia, his Hamas people exist. They're just disrupting everything that's normal in the Middle East. The previous administration had peace accords with the Abraham Accords. This administration was about the sign of peace agreement between Saudi Arabia and Israel. Had that all occurred, there'd be peace in the Middle East, and there'd be normal trade and technological trade and good solid economic balance in that part of the world. But the radical group of Hamas and the Shia Muslims, which are the people pushing this agenda, they don't want peace. They don't want peace between Palestine and Israel. They want to have a pure Islamic state regardless of any other borders. I don't know if you know this or not, but Hezbollah doesn't support Lebanon. They want the elimination of the state of Lebanon. They want a caliphate.
So it's very interesting. Like this conversation is multi-layered. I also want to bring up another tweet that was put out earlier today by the Israel Defense Forces saying that approximately 10 million civilians are the targets of those Iranian projectiles. Just taking a look at your screen here, you can see all of those little points there on the map. It looks like the entire region is filled and was targeted. Well, it could have been under target from those Iranian projectiles earlier today. Again, I want to ask you, Brian, where do we go from here? Now knowing that this attack has happened, how does the U.S. now respond to this escalation there in the Middle East? We know they've been working on a ceasefire deal for months in that region, trying to get that violence to calm down. But again, it continues to escalate.
Well, we as a country, keep talking about a ceasefire, and we're pressuring the Israelis. What I don't understand is why we're not pressuring Hamas to release hostages. This is sort of an upside down way of talking. If this was a bank robbery and the they had hostages in the bank. Do you think the police are going to back off and walk away and let the hostage out and get away with the money? No, the police are going to stay there to the bitter end until the thing is resolved, either violently or peacefully. That's the nature of this type of a war. We should be focused and pressuring Hamas and pressuring Iran to have the pressure to release these hostages. They're both Israelis and Israelis-American hostages. We're not talking about hostages, we're talking about ceasefire. Any ceasefire without the rubric of the major purpose of the ceasefire is to release hostages, then a ceasefire. If we follow this thing closely, you're going to realize that every time our country gets involved with Anthony Blinken and the State Department and the others, and we try to broker a deal with the Israelis, Sinwar, who runs Hamas, will always turn it down, because the only way he will accept an agreement is if he is allowed to exist, allowed to have his political party stay in power, and allow him to control the Gaza Strip. And that's not in the cards. He's not going to give up hostages unless he has 100% of that, and that's not going to work.
Hostages, of course, have been a major part of that conversation throughout the time. And I also, before I let you go, want to touch on another terror attack that actually happened there in the region as well. I want to read out the update that we had. 8 people were killed and another 8 were also injured in a shooting there in Tel Aviv on Tuesday. So at this point, police did say that the event is under control. They neutralized the 2 attackers and described them as terrorists. At this time, is there any indication that these 2 attacks could be linked? Because even this was at a light rail station in the Jaffa region, which is not in the same part of Tel Aviv where we saw people sheltering in place. But it is important to note that another terrorist attack happened at the same time.
Yes, they're going to have those kind of skirmishes in and around the area. You need to stay focused on the big picture. The big picture is, what do these countries have at stake? Iran's goal, and it's in its charter, as is in Hezbollah's charter, as Hamas' charter, which are political organizations, had for their goal the ultimate, the absolute destruction, the elimination of all Jews and Christians from the Middle East. That is their agenda. It's in their political manifesto, and that's part of their world. The Israelis are trying to maintain at least some degree of modicum, and they want to maintain their free democratic state. So they are in a defensive posture. They're not in an aggressive posture. They don't want to take over Lebanon. They don't want to take on more territory, notwithstanding the settlements. But when you have those 2 types of groups at each other's throat, the one group is defending itself. The other is the aggressor based on the desire to eliminate a religion. You're not going to have a lot of peace in the Middle East until they are able to, I guess, demoralize the Hezbollah enough or to make them more ineffective. That's their only choice. They're in a war, they don't have a choice, and they're being forced into a corner. But luckily, the Israelis are militarily strong enough. Their intelligence is the best in the world. And as long as they're able to stay one step ahead of the behavior of the Hezbollah and the Iranians, they'll be able to continue to succeed.
And Brian, I know I said the last question was the last one, but this one really is. I do have to ask you about that attack. When we saw the images of those missiles flying over the city, the Israeli defense system really did seem to shine in a moment, intercepting most of this, now to the point where there are no reported casualties at this point. Can you speak to the strength of that Iron Dome and the strength of the Israel military overall?
Yes, and this is why Iran really won't go into a direct conflict with the Israelis. They don't have an effective air force. They don't have a good navy. They don't have a good army. That's why they work through the huge army of Hezbollah. That's why they work through the proxies. Iran itself is not physically capable of going into a direct war with Israel. Israel has one of the most sophisticated defensive positions with the Iron Dome, David Sling, and the other elements. And they're able to do it. And they are very, very far and superior on their intelligence capability. And it should be in our best interest and to get our country more behind it, as in the free world should be, because if we don't, the result is going to be catastrophic. You don't want to have a world where Iran is armed with a nuclear weapon and liable to use it against those enemies of theirs that are considered religious enemies.
Absolutely. Brian, they're giving us the latest update on everything having to do with this latest missile attack there in Israel. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. We'll be sure to check into over the next few days as we learn more information about these attacks.
I'm available for you. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you. All right, we do want to continue on here on Live Now from Fox with all of the other latest updates that we have. If you are just now joining us, so I'm going to put up a live picture there on your screen just of the area there in Tel Aviv. This is a much different view than what we had just a few hours ago. We were able to see those missiles launched by Iran that were sent over to that region, and it was launched over the city of Tel Aviv. So this is what the Israeli military said. They knew that Iran had fired missiles there at Israel, and air raid sirens sounded all across the country as those residents were ordered to remain close to bomb shelters, eventually ordered to go into those bomb shelters. Israel and the United States warned that there would be severe consequences if Iran attacks, and so we're still waiting to hear the latest out here from our officials as well. I'm going to pull up on your screen now just a live look that we have there at the White House as we're still waiting for this briefing to get underway. It was scheduled to start about an hour ago, but we're still, again, waiting at this time for it to get underway and hear the latest comments from the White House as well as the State Department. So when either of these briefings start, we're going to bring them right to you here on Live Now from Fox. And in the meantime, I also do want to pull up a few tweets just so you can know that the president is aware of the situation. So this was tweeted out by the presidential secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre. She says that the President Biden and VP Kamala Harris convened 2 meetings with their national security team in the White House Situation Room today and are receiving updates, regular updates. The president did direct the U.S. military to aid Israel's defense against Iranian attacks and shoot down missiles targeting Israel. They also reviewed preparations to protect U.S. personnel there in the region. Very important that they are letting us know that they're at the top of the country. They are looking out for Israel as well. That's the only response that we have for them at this time. So let's also take a look here. This is a tweet there from Donald Trump. This is what was posted on his Truth Social site. He says, "This war was totally preventable. It should not have ever happened. If I were president, it would not have happened." Of course, that was Donald Trump there via his Truth Social site. And we do have a more complete statement from Donald Trump as well that we're going to bring to you. He says in full, this is a statement that was released on this an imminent attack that he said, so that the world is on fire and spiraling out of control. We have no leadership, no one running the country. We have a non-existent president in Joe Biden and a complete absent vice president, Kamala Harris, who is too busy fundraising in San Francisco, a city that she and Gavin Newsom totally destroyed, staging fake photo ops. No one is in charge and not even clear who is more confused, Biden or Kamala. Neither has any idea of what is going on. So that's just a snippet of his statement that he also put out on True Social, talking about the latest there in the region. So we're going to continue again to monitor the latest there from some of our leaders across the country as they are getting us information from the region there. So again, a live look there inside of the White House as we're waiting for that briefing to start. But in the meantime, I also do want to pull in our next guest to the conversation here on Live Now from Fox. So again, as we're tracking this very developing situation, getting different viewpoints is going to be important here. I want to bring in David Siegel. He is the U.S. Advocacy Group for the U.S. and Israel-European Relations. David, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. I have to ask you, what was your first response to hearing that Iran had sent out this missile barrage towards Israel?
Well, you know, on the one hand, it's not surprising because we've seen this before in April. Israel's been dealing, as we all know, with the ring of fire that Iran has encircled Israel with on 7 fronts. Israeli troops are now operating in southern Lebanon, beyond the Israeli border. I think it's just incredible, the infrastructure that was there. Hezbollah was planning to occupy northern Israel, and by some miracle, Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, without Hezbollah joining them from the north. Evidently, they were surprised in the north, and had both sides attacked Israel at the same time, Israel would have been in probably the worst crisis in its history. So we're looking at multiple fronts, but they all emanate from Iran. And this is an opportunity to remember that Israel isn't in this alone. The United States is there. There's an international coalition. Iran is a threat not only to Israel, but to the entire Middle East, and not only the entire Middle East, but to Europe too, because they're behind Russian aggression. So there's a global, regional, and Israel-specific element here, and Israel is going to respond and respond very forcefully to this attack.
And we do know, like you said, that Israel there in that region is surrounded by people who are funded by Iran, including Hezbollah and Hamas, some of the terror attacks that happened earlier. So can you sort of speak to now what Israel's maybe mindset may be going forward as they're now entrenched in this battle in the region against multiple different agencies?
Well, so this attack really is unprecedented. It's the largest missile attack in Israel's history. 181 ballistic missiles were fired from Iran and covered all of Israel. Multiple attacks focus on the Dimona nuclear site in southern Israel and other strategic sites in the country. I think the message from Iran is clear, and the message from Israel will be even more clear. The response will be unprecedented. It could be in various parts of the Middle East and any one of those 7 fronts. And certainly Iran will understand that it's not in its interest to attack Israel ever again. And if they didn't get the message until now, they're about to receive it.
What do you think about the U.S. now response and other countries there in Europe as well to these latest attacks? Of course, we did just hear from the president and Vice President Kamala Harris saying that they're being briefed in a room, and of course that they did order the U.S. military to help out Israel in this situation. But what is the further response going forward going to look like over the next few days, months, and I guess until this conflict comes to an end?
Well, it's an important question. Iran here attacked not only Israel, but also defied the United States and the West, because Iran was told very, very clearly by multiple countries not to do this, and they did it anyway. So Israel is part of a coalition. That coalition obviously is led by the United States, but it includes very important European countries. In April, we saw both the air forces of the UK and France operating out of various locations in Europe, and in the Middle East, including the Abraham Accord countries and Gulf countries that were participating either actively or indirectly through early warning systems that are placed there. So this really is a coalition effort, and I expect that we'll see that coalition operate together again, and was probably behind this very successful defense. I mean, think about it, 181 rockets fired at Israel, missiles from Iran, just over 2 hours ago. No one wounded in Israel significantly. Those rockets were mostly intercepted at very, very high rates. The actual ratio is classified right now, but it will probably come out later. So this was a complete failure on the part of Iran again, after the other failures that we've seen, in the region in recent weeks. And this is again an historic moment and an historic opportunity to reorder the balance in the Middle East that is a threat not just to Israel, to Lebanon, and to other countries, but to the world at large.
And as we were watching some of that video that was put out there on Twitter as well, you could see those bombs streaming across the sky, of course, being intercepted, as you said, most of them at a very high rate. But can you sort of speak to the strength there of Israel's military and what it means to be able to hold off an attack like this?
Well, this is the most extensive attack in Israel's history, so it is very, very significant. But the fact that just about all of those rockets were intercepted is a very strong message about Israel's ability to defend itself together with the United States and other members of the coalition. This is really a tremendous success, but the challenges are still before us. Iran is an enormous country. Iran has more capabilities, so does Hezbollah. Although they've been delivered a series of very significant setbacks by Israel, including taking out their entire senior leadership. They're still there. They're still dangerous. And this is why the calls for ceasefires, de-escalation is just a complete misunderstanding of what needs to be done. Israel now has the momentum. Iran and its proxies are on the defensive, and in fact, they're desperate and they're making strategic mistakes because they're provoking the United States of America, an international coalition, and a very, very strong Israel that after October 7th, and this weekend is the year anniversary, after October 7th is a very different country. Israel's not going to tolerate having genocidal terrorist organizations situated on its borders anymore. So it's going to be an effort. It's going to be a very dangerous and painful process, but it's a process that has to be seen through in order to reorder the strategic balance in the Middle East.
And I do want to pull up there on your screen, if you're looking at home, raw footage there. This is put up by the Israel Defense Forces showing Iranian missiles rain over the old city in Jerusalem, a holy site for Muslims, Christians, and Jews. This is the largest target of the Iranian regime. Everyone. Of course, this is according to the IDF, a statement that they put out on the platform X, Twitter, also known as that. But what is your thoughts when you see this, pointing out the fact that some of these missiles were over the holy city there in Jerusalem? Again, a very important site for Muslims, Christians, and Jews, for all of those three Abrahamic religions. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, this is the great irony. Iran and all these terror groups claim that they're defending Jerusalem, and here they are attacking it. And actually, some rockets did fall on the West Bank. And tragically, I understand that one Palestinian reportedly was killed in Jericho. So they're just firing indiscriminately. And remember that Israel, and certainly in northern Israel, there are many minorities, Arab, Muslim, Druze, minorities as well, and they're all being attacked. I would remind our audience that throughout the Middle East, there are celebrations, not because Israel's being attacked, but because Iran, its proxies, Hezbollah, which is hated in the Sunni world because of their participation in the Syrian civil war and the slaughter of hundreds of thousands of Sunni Syrians over the last decade. This is what they're responsible for. So these really are forces of evil and extremism that have to be uprooted. And Israel is going to continue to make sure that its country is defended, that its people are defended. And together with an international coalition, we'd like to see a different Middle East, a changed Middle East that won't be a threat to the region and to the world.
Absolutely. And before I let you go, I do want to ask you also about that light rail attack that happened simultaneously at the same time that we were getting news there of these bombs falling there over Tel Aviv. I want to read you out what we know about the situation. 8 people were killed and another 8 were injured in that shooting attack in Tel Aviv. This is according to Israel's emergency services as well. Police say that event is now under control. They neutralized those 2 attackers and described them as apparent terrorists. So when you hear that, you know that there's this large attack there by Iran, but also on the ground, smaller skirmishes happening in the same region. Can you sort of speak to what that does for a country like Israel and how they have to now look out on both sides?
Well, let me just tell you on a personal level, we were on an emergency briefing from my organization, ELNET, which connects Europe and Israel. And we had a senior IDF briefer. And during the briefing, we heard about the terror attack. I have team members in Israel who the attack took place under their house. They had just come back from that very train station for this briefing. The briefing was stopped also because of the missile attack. So all of this is very personal and it's very close to home for Israelis. But I do want to, point out that this is not a coincidence. The fact that terror attacks are taking place inside Israel at the same time that rockets and missiles are being fired by Iran, and these terror attacks are being fueled, funded, encouraged, incited by Iran on these 7 fronts, including the West Bank, that is being flooded by arms and weapons and money via Jordan, via Syria, from Iran in order to inflame the West Bank and to attack Israel on that additional front, again, indicates in a very clear way that Iran is a threat to the entire Middle East and that this has to stop. And I hope we're looking at historic days. Today will be a day that will be remembered in history. Historic days in which the Iranian machine of death and terrorism is rolled back on all these fronts for the betterment of the Middle East and the entire world.
Certainly something that we're going to be keeping a very close eye on the rest of the day here on Live Now from Fox. David Siegel, thank you so much for your time and your input. And we hope that all of the people in your organization who you just mentioned are there on the ground in Israel are safe during this time. And we just hope that everything starts to calm down. Again, there's no more imminent threats, according to the IDF. People are out of those bomb shelters at this time. But again, still a very tense situation there in the Middle East.
Thank you so much.
All right. Again, of course, we are going to continue here on Live Now from Fox, covering the latest going on with the situation. But I also do want to remind you that we are still waiting on a few briefings to start out of our nation's capital. Here's a live look there inside of the White House, where we're waiting to hear if that briefing will get underway. Of course, we did hear from Karine Jean-Pierre as well. She was there earlier today. She was speaking out earlier today to let us know that the vice president and the VP did convene. They are there to meet with their national security team in the White House Situation Room today and are receiving regular updates at this time. The president, though, has already directed the U.S. military to aid Israel's defense against these Iranian attacks and shoot down missiles that were targeting spaces there in Israel. And of course, we do know that this happened. They also reviewed preparations to protect U.S. personnel in the region, as of course we do know many U.S. citizens are there in that region of, in the region there in Israel. So a couple of updates that I also now want to give you outside there in Israel. We are still, again, waiting for these briefings to get underway, but as we're taking a live look there in the city, we do know that Israel has now closed its airspace after the Iranian missile attack. So Israel's airport authority says that the country's airspace has been closed and incoming flights are being diverted to airports outside of the country as well. So if you are seeing this here on your screen again, this is a live look there in Tel Aviv. Several airports in that region have been closed. Iran, of course, said it launched dozens of ballistic missiles there at Israel in retaliation of killing Hezbollah leaders there in the country. So Hezbollah says that they are not responding to this yet, but at this time, again, other folks are speaking out. The UN chief is again called there for a ceasefire in the region there in the Middle East. This is the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. He has condemned the broadening of the Middle Eastern conflict with escalation after escalation. So Guterres' comments, though, come shortly after Iran said it did fire those dozens of ballistic missiles. We did get an update knowing that it was about 181 from the latest count. But let's go ahead and take a look here at this tweet that was also put out by the Israeli government. They said, "Listen to the booms. This is Israel right now." And as you're seeing there on your screen, this is raw footage there showing you what it was like as those missiles were falling over several areas there in the country, including that major city of Tel Aviv. So again, we're continuing here on Live Now from Fox to wait for the latest updates. We also should be getting an update from the U.S. State Department soon momentarily. But in the meantime, I do want to bring you, if you did miss some of the attack earlier today, we do have footage of it right here on Live Now from Fox in our studio. I want to play out some of that footage and you can really listen to what it sounded as those sirens were going off and as those ballistic missiles were falling there over the city. right, thank you for staying with us here on Live Now from Fox as we just showed you some previous video that we had in our newsroom of that attack there in Israel as it got underway earlier this morning. So again, we are continuing to track all the latest here, and I want to bring in our next guest to the show as well to talk a little bit more in detail about what this attack means as an Iraq war veteran as well. He's been there in the region. Joining into the show now is Christopher Nywain. He is now the founder of the Arsenal Government and Public Affairs Group. So I have to ask you, Christopher, first of all, thank you for joining us here on the show. But earlier today, when you got the notification that Iran had now launched an attack there on Israel in the Middle East, what was your first reaction to hearing that news?
Well, the initial reaction is this is the result of a more laissez-faire foreign policy that isn't as bolted in. There's been a lot of criticism in the last several weeks about the way in which Israel has pursued some of these negotiations. But again, they're dealing with this sort of regional pressure with real life events every day. So I think that from the U.S. perspective, they need to look at some of those peace frameworks, get a little more involved. I would send advisors to the region. Now, the military got this notification quicker. News media has gotten, obviously, earlier this morning. Soldiers I know at Fort Bragg and other places are on alert as the Pentagon has announced they will be sending more troops to the region. So I think what we're going to see now is an escalation of activity in the region. U.S. troops going over there. We got about 40,000 troops in between Syria and Iraq in the region to help with counterintelligence, things of that nature. And my understanding is Israel has asked Lebanon to evacuate some cities, and we're now witnessing an escalation in this conflict.
And it is an escalation in this conflict as well. And so you've been over there in the region as an Iraq war veteran. Can you sort of speak from your perspective what it's like to be over there in these tense times?
So it's one of these things where when we look at our foreign policy and we talk about congressional affairs and Ukraine or any of these other conflicts is, as we say, the blood and the treasure, the cost. We look at the Iraq and Afghanistan conflicts and the trillions of dollars in spending. We just have to understand what we're getting ourselves into. So in this context, we provide weapons, we provide training for Israel. We've been pretty good there. But again, I think the current administration needs to be a little bit more involved with shaping some of these scenarios and these agreements as they're presented, because when you don't, it just creates more of a problem later. So obviously we have election cycles and presidential election cycles in the U.S., but this foreign policy problem has been going on for decades. And so whether it's two-state solution or larger framework, they need to put some of that stuff in place. And for now, we're going to be looking at even trying to dial back to a ceasefire, as Israel seems to indicate they may be sending 10,000 or some odd troops into more regions there north of the Awali River in Lebanon. And we're still witnessing an expansion.
Absolutely. So we do have to cut this interview short as we do have a spokesperson there in the White House now speaking here on our screens. Let's listen in here on Live Now. Thank you, Christopher.
You bet.
Lebanon or elsewhere in the region? We have been very clear for some time now that U.S. citizens should avail themselves of commercial means to depart Lebanon, given everything that's going on. We have said that from this podium, from multiple podiums. We continue to say that, but we have not begun triggering a non-combatant emergency evacuation, a NEO, and do not have an intention to do so at this time. If that changes, we'll let you know. But we continue to reinforce the point. American citizens in Lebanon should follow the guidance from the State Department, which is to find civilian commercial means to depart, because in extremis, we may not be able to get them out safely. Yes.
Thanks, Jake. What is the U.S. view on whether Israel should retaliate, and what is your concern about this leading to a wider escalation of war in the region?
We've had some initial discussions with the Israelis in the aftermath of this at the military level and also at the White House to Prime Minister's office level. We'll continue those conversations in the hours ahead. I'm not going to prejudge or get ahead of anything. We want to have some deep consultations with the Israelis, and I'll have more to report to you after we get the opportunity for deeper discussions.
And escalation in the region?
Obviously, this is a significant escalation by Iran, a significant event, and it is equally significant that we were able to step up with Israel and create a situation in which no one was killed in this attack in Israel, so far as we know at this time. We are now going to look at what the appropriate next steps are to secure, first and foremost, American interests, and then to promote stability to the maximum extent possible as we go forward. Yeah.
Back in April, the president's message to Israel was to take the win when the U.S. and Israel were able to intercept the barrage of Iranian missiles. Is he recommending a similarly limited response this time?
I will not, from this podium, share the president's recommendations. He will have the opportunity to share them directly. We're going to have, as I said, ongoing consultations with the Israelis this evening. It is too early for me to tell you anything publicly in terms of our assessment or in terms of what our expectations are of the Israelis or the advice that we will give them.
So will he be speaking to Prime Minister Netanyahu today?
I don't have anything to announce from this podium, but I can tell you that he is tracking this minute by minute. We are very much deeply in touch with the Israelis, and insofar as we have calls to read out, we'll make sure to read them out with you. Just last question, then I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Jake. In April, after Iran struck Israel, the U.S. issued a number of sanctions as a consequence. This morning, the president said there would be severe consequences if Iran carried out this attack. What are those consequences, and are they more severe than sanctions?
Totally legitimate question, and that answer will come based on the conversations and consultations we have with our Israeli counterparts. It's too soon for me to stand before you today and give you an answer. What I can tell you is this. We are proud of the actions that we've taken alongside Israel to protect and defend Israel. We have made clear that there will be consequences, severe consequences for this attack, and we will work with Israel to make that the case. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Jake. Okay, on to the rest of the programming here. This morning, President Biden was briefed by his Homeland Security Advisor, Liz Sherwood-Randall, on the latest impacts of Hurricane Helene, and this afternoon he will receive an interagency briefing on the Hurricane Helene response and recovery efforts. At the president's direction, the Biden-Harris administration continues to use every tool available to get assistance and resources to the communities that need them the most. Yesterday, the president approved a major disaster declaration for Georgia, which will unlock additional assistance to help those recovering. This is in addition to the major disaster declaration swiftly approved by the president following requests from North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida, as well as requests for emergency assistance across 7 states. Tomorrow, the president will travel to Raleigh, North Carolina, where he will visit the State Emergency Operations Center to meet with local officials and also first responders. And the vice president will travel to Augusta, Georgia tomorrow, and will then head to North Carolina in the coming days. As of today, thousands of personnel from across the federal workforce are deployed in supporting state-led Hurricane Helene response efforts across the 6 affected states, including over 1,200 personnel in North Carolina. Still, there is more work to be done, and the Biden-Harris administration will be there for these communities every step of the way. Now, as you can see, we also have Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas.
Thank you, Corinne, and good afternoon. Before standing at the podium, I was at FEMA's National Operations Center being briefed by our personnel as well as state emergency personnel. I thought it very moving and very telling that North Carolina's Emergency Management Director described Hurricane Helene as catastrophic and noted the fact that numerous towns situated along the river had virtually disappeared, had been completely destroyed. In fact, Hurricane Helene is of an historic magnitude. This many states hit this hard. The wind field of the hurricane stretched 350 miles from its center. More than 100 fatalities have been reported, hundreds and hundreds of homes and businesses destroyed. Our hearts break for those who have lost loved ones, and we pray for the swift assistance and rescue of those who are currently missing. We are in different phases of a post-hurricane environment, depending on the state and the location within the state. In some areas, we are still in search and recovery, search and rescue operations. In others, we are, in fact, in the response and recovery phase. I thought I would give you some of the latest statistics based on the briefing that I received. And I should say that these numbers are, as you can all well understand, quite dynamic and fluid. They change minute by minute and hour by hour. But just as devastating as the hurricane has been, the response of federal, state, and local authorities has been extraordinary. We have more than 2,000 federal personnel dedicated to this effort on the ground. We have more than 1,200 urban search and rescue personnel. FEMA staff deployed, over 1,200. Corinne mentioned the major disaster declarations and the emergency declarations previously issued. I should note that in the 6 states most severely impacted, the emergency declarations were issued before the storm hit, and we had thousands of personnel dedicated there. We have delivered more than 2.6 million ready-to-eat meals and more than 1 million liters of water. At its peak, there were 5.1 million customers without power. We have reduced that amount, and not just the federal government in support of the state and local authorities, but working very closely with the power companies and the other utilities. We've reduced that number of customers without power by 3.8 million people. And so the operation is very, very significantly underway. We are working in support of our state and local partners. This is an all of government, frankly, all of community effort. And with that, I'll take some questions.
With regards to how many were unaccounted for, yesterday Liz said about 600 were unaccounted for. Do you have an updated number on that?
We do not have an update, but that work is still underway. And I know, for example, within the Department of Homeland Security, the Coast Guard has recently rescued approximately 21 people through their patrols.
And there was also discussion yesterday on whether resources may have been better pre-positioned in other parts of the country. There were many assets in the Big Bend region of Florida, some in North Carolina, but should the government have pre-positioned more in the North Carolina area?
Well, we actually pre-positioned our personnel, and state and local personnel were pre-positioned in all 6 of the most heavily impacted states. This is an historic hurricane. It reached not only industrial areas, but of course, as we also poignantly see, rural areas as well.
Yeah, thanks, Corinne. Liz yesterday, focusing on the pre-positioning here before the storm, said that it was focused on the Big Bend region of Florida. So what pre-positioning was taking place there that wasn't taking place in the North Carolina, Western North Carolina area?
Remember that the pre-positioning of assets, to include personnel as well as equipment and the like, also depends on the terrain and the access points. And so we pre-position where we think the impacts are going to be greatest. And we have seen the impacts hit mountainous regions that are inaccessible. We now have roads destroyed. There is a significant amount of mud. We understand that people are still situated in the mud, and therefore we cannot undertake debris removal until we are assured that the search and rescue operation